Right, good evening, and welcome to Axiom Flux. Clux? Ku Klux, Axiom Flux.
Well, it is a flux. It's a Christmas flux, so it's a
Christmas Flux. Yeah, that's what it was. Episode, what is this? Oh, yeah, Series 3, Episode 8. And today's date is Christmas. Anyway.
Can I just check that we're actually online, because it's staying off air on my side?
It's saying stop the broadcast here, so it's live. So
all good then.
That's long carry on. Well,
carry on.
Anyway, carry on. Right. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Christmas because it's Christmas. Well, it's still Christmas Day, isn't it? Yeah, looking at it. I've got tonight with me, Stab. I've got PJ and Predator Jeff. Good evening, boys.
Evening, Stav. Merry Christmas.
Evening, Stav. Merry Crimbo, mate.
Yes, good evening,
PJ.
Yep, same to you. We all had a good one. We had a good day.
Yeah, pretty good.
Open many presents.
Presents. Yes, did we get the presents?
Most importantly, have you felt the Christmas spirit?
My Christmas spirit comes straight out of a bottle of whiskey, mate. Bah, humbug.
Well, I guess it can come.
Yeah, I went to my local common with my Anglo-Saxon stuff on, and visited the Irminsul and done the pagan thing. PJ, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'm only joking. But anyway, right, okay, well, listen, look, do you want to kick us off, first of all, Peach? I've got one article, whatever, whatever Jeff's got, so I'll put it over to you, and you can go first, as I say this evening.
I can try. That's all I can say.
Go on, then.
This will be first week in Mene for me, so let's see how we get on. Right, you just share me out upon full screen, yeah? Just to present me to everybody.
I can see that.
I've done that.
Right, this is my first article then. It's just a little introduction to what Stav's going to be discussing in more detail. And this is the Pagan Roots, 5 surprising facts about Christmas. When you gather around the Christmas tree, or stuff goodies in a stocking, you're taking part in traditions that stretch back thousands of years, long before Christianity entered the mix. Pagan or non-Christian traditions show up in this beloved winter holiday, a consequence of early church leaders melding Jesus' nativity celebration with pre-existing midwinter festivals. Since then, Christmas traditions have warped over time, arriving at their current state a little more than a century ago. Early Christians had a soft spot for pagans. It's a mistake to say that our modern Christmas traditions come directly from pre-Christian paganism, said Ronald Hutton, a historian at Bristol University in the United Kingdom. However, he said, you'd be equally wrong to believe that Christmas is a modern phenomenon. As Christians spread their religion into Europe in the 1st centuries AD, they ran into people living by a variety of local and regional religious creeds. Christian missionaries lumped all of these people together under the umbrella term pagan, who researches early Germanic languages and Old English at Leicester University in the UK, Philip Shaw. The term is related to the Latin word meaning field. Shaw told Live Science, the lingual link makes sense. He said because early European Christianity was an urban phenomenon while paganism persisted longer in rustic areas. Early Christians wanted to convert pagans, Shaw said, but they were also fascinated by their traditions. Christians of that period are quite interested in paganism. He said it's obviously something they think is a bad thing, but it's also something they think is worth remembering. It's what their ancestors did. Perhaps that's why pagan traditions remained even as Christianity took hold. The Christmas tree is a 17th century German invention. University of Bristol's Hutton told Life Science, but it clearly derives from the pagan practice of bringing greenery indoors to decorate in midwinter. The modern Santa Claus is a direct descendant of England's Father Christmas, who was not originally a gift giver. However, Father Christmas and its other European variations are modern incarnations of old pagan ideas about spirits who travelled the sky in midwinter. We all want that warm Christmas glow. But why this fixation on partying in midwinter anyway? According to historians, it's a natural time for a feast. In an agricultural society, the harvest work is done for the year, and there's nothing left to be done in the fields. It's a time when you have some time to devote your religious life to your religious life, said Shaw. But also it's a period when frankly everyone needs cheering up. The dark days that culminate with the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice, could be lightened with feast and decorations, Hutton said. If you happen to live in a region in which midwinter brings striking darkness and cold and hunger, then the urge to have a celebration at the very heart of it, to avoid going mad or falling into deep depression, is very, very strong, he said. Stephen Nissenbaum, author of the Pulitzer Prize finalist The Battle for Christmas, agreed. Even now, when solstice means not all that much because you can get rid of the darkness with the flick of an electric light switch, even now it's a very powerful season, he told Life Science. The church was slow to embrace Christmas. Despite the spread of Christianity, midwinter festivals did not become Christmas for hundreds of years. The Bible gives no reference to when Jesus was born, which wasn't a problem for early Christians. It never occurred to them that they needed to celebrate his birthday, with no biblical directive to do so, and no mention in the Gospels of the correct date. It wasn't until the 4th century that church leaders in Rome embraced the holiday. At this time, Nissenbaum said, many people had turned to a belief the church found heretical, that Jesus had never existed as a man, but as a sort of spiritual entity. If you want to show that Jesus was a real human being, just like every other human being, not just somebody who appeared like a hologram, then what better way to think of him being born in a normal, humble human way than to celebrate his birth? Midwinter festivals with their pagan roots were already widely celebrated, and the day had a pleasing philosophical fit with festivals celebrating the lengthening days after the winter solstice, which fell on December 21st. Oh, how wonderful acted Providence that on that day on which that son was born, Christ should be born. One Cyprian text read. The Puritans hated the holiday, but if the Catholic Church gradually came to embrace Christmas, the Protestant Reformation gave the holiday a good knock on the chin. In the 16th century, Christmas became a casualty of this church schism, with reformist-minded Protestants considering it little better than paganism. This likely had something to do with the raucous, rowdy and sometimes bawdy fashion in which Christmas was celebrated. In England, under Oliver Cromwell, Christmas and other saints' days were banned, and in New England it was illegal to celebrate Christmas for about 25 years in the 1600s. Nissenbaum said, forget people saying happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas, he said. If you want to look at a real war on Christmas, you've got to look at the Puritans, he said. They banned it. Gifts are a new and surprisingly controversial tradition. While gift-giving may seem inextricably tied to Christmas, it used to be that people looked forward to opening presents on New Year's Day. They were a blessing for people to make them feel good as the year ends. It wasn't until the Victorian era of the 1800s that gift-giving shifted to Christmas. According to the Royal Collection, Queen Victoria's children got Christmas Eve gifts in 1850, including a sword and armour. In 1841, Victoria gave her husband, Prince Albert, a miniature portrait of her as a 7-year-old. In 1859, she gave him a book of poetry by Alfred, Lord Tennyson. All of this gift-giving, along with secular embrace of Christmas, now has some religious groups steamed. The consumerism of Christmas shopping seems to contradict the religious goal of celebrating Jesus Christ's birth. In some ways, Nissenbaum said excessive spending is the modern equivalent and drunkenness that made the Puritans frown. There's always been a push and pull, and it takes different forms, he said. It might have been alcohol then, and it's these glittering toys, and now it's these glittering toys. So it's just a brief, quick introduction and, explanation on a bit of the origins of Christmas and its links. My next one is this one, which is mainly focused in on Jesus, this one, and the connections to that with Rome and so on. So I'll just go through this. Unless you've got any comments so far that you want to make on previous article.
Now, what I'll do is I've got a couple of bits and articles, so I'm going to pull one or two bits off that sort of kind of not questions what you just read on that piece, but kind of endorses it as well. And
yeah, that's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll let you get on with the next article. We'll bring that up in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do. All right, this is the history of Christmas then. When was Jesus born? A popular myth puts his birthday on December the 25th in the year 1 CE. The New Testament gives no date or year for Jesus' birth. The earliest Gospel, St. Mark's, written about 65 CE, begins with the baptism of an adult Jesus. This suggests that the earliest Christians lacked interest in or knowledge of Jesus' birth date. The year of Jesus' birth was determined by Dionysius Exiguus, or you could probably pronounce that better, Stav, a Scythian monk, abbot of a Roman monastery. His calculations went as follows. In the Roman pre-Christian era, years were counted from ab urb condita, the founding of the city Rome. Thus 1 AUC signifies the year Rome was founded, 5 AUC signifies the 5th year of the Rome's reign, etc. Dionysius received a tradition that the Roman Emperor Augustus reigned 43 years and was followed by the Emperor Tiberius. Luke 3:1-23 indicates that when Jesus turned 30 years old, it was the 15th year of Tiberius' reign. If Jesus was 30 years old in Tiberius' reign, then nearly 15 years under Augustus, placing Jesus' birth in Augustus' 28th year of reign. Augustus took power in 727 AUC. Therefore, Dionysius put Jesus' birth in 754 AUC. However, Luke 1 verse 5 places Jesus' birth in the days of Herod, and Herod died in 750 AUC, 4 years before the year in which Dionysius places Jesus' birth. So I'm not going to read every bit of this article, I'm just going to pull bits out. How did Christmas come to be celebrated on December 25th? Roman pagans first introduced a holiday of Saturnalia, a week-long period of lawlessness celebrated between December the 17th to the 25th. During this period, Roman courts were closed, and Roman law dictated that no one could be punished for damaging property, injuring people during the week-long celebration. The festival began when Roman authorities chose an enemy of the Roman people to represent the lord of misrule. Each Roman community selected a victim whom they forced to indulge in food and other physical pleasures throughout the week. At the festival's conclusion, December the 25th, Roman authorities believed they were destroying the forces of darkness by brutally murdering this innocent man or woman. The ancient Greek writer, poet, and historian Lucian, in his dialogue entitled Saturnalia, describes the festival's observance in his time. In addition to human sacrifice, he mentions these customs: widespread intoxication, going from house to house while singing naked, rape and other sexual license, and consuming human-shaped biscuits, still produced in some English and most German bakeries during the Christmas season. In the 4th century CE, Christianity imported the Saturnalia festival, hoping to take the pagan masses in with it. Christian leaders succeeded in converting to Christianity large numbers of pagans by promising them that they could continue to celebrate the Saturnalia as Christians. The problem was that there was nothing intrinsically Christian about Saturnalia. To remedy this, these Christian leaders named Saturnalia's concluding day, December the 25th, to be Jesus' birthday. Christians had little success, however, refining the practices of Saturnalia, as Stephen Nissenbaum's professor of history at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst writes, open quote, in return for ensuring massive observance of the anniversary of the Saviour's birth by assigning it to the resonant date, the Church, for its part, tacitly agreed to allow the holiday to be celebrated more or less the way it had always been. Close quote. The earliest Christmas holiday were celebrated by drinking, sexual indulgence, singing naked in the streets, etc. The Reverend Increase Mather of Boston observed in 1687 that the early Christians who first observed the Nativity on December 25th did not do so thinking that Christ was born in that month, but because the heathen Saturnalia was at the time kept in Rome, and they were willing to have those pagan holidays metamorphosed into Christian ones. Because of its known pagan origin, Christmas was banned by the Puritans and its observance was illegal in Massachusetts between 1659 and 1684. That's that reign of 20-odd years. However, Christmas was and still is celebrated by most Christians. Some of the most depraved customs of the Saturnalia Carnival were intentionally revived by the Catholic Church in 1466, when Pope Paul II, for the amusement of his Roman citizens, forced Jews to race naked through the streets of the city. An eyewitness account reports, before they were to run, the Jews were richly fed, so as to make the race more difficult for them, and at the same time more amusing for the spectators. They ran amid Rome's taunting shrieks and peals of laughter, while the Holy Father stood up on a richly ornamented balcony and laughed heartily. As part of the Saturnalia Carnival throughout the 18th and 19th century CE, rabbis of the ghetto in Rome were forced to wear clownish outfits and march through the city streets to the jeers of the crowd, pelted by a variety of missiles. When the Jewish community of Rome sent a petition in 1836 to Pope Gregory the 16th, begging him to stop the annual Saturnalia abuse of the Jewish community, he responded, quote, "It is not opportune to make any innovation," end quote. On December the 25th, 1881, Christian leaders whipped the Polish masses in anti-Semitic frenzies that led to riots across the country. In Warsaw, 12 Jews were brutally murdered, huge numbers maimed, and many Jewish women were raped. 2 million rubles worth of property was destroyed. The origins of Christmas customs. The origin of the Christmas tree. Just as early Christians recruited Roman pagans by associating Christmas with the Saturnalia, so too worshippers of the Asherah cult and its offshoots were recruited by the church, sanctioning Christmas trees. Pagans had long worshipped trees in the forests, or brought them into their homes and decorated them, and this observance was adopted and painted with a Christian veneer by the church. The origin of the mistletoe. Norse mythology recounts how the god Balder was killed using a mistletoe arrow by his rival god Hoder while fighting for the female Nanna. Druid rituals use mistletoe to poison their human sacrificial victim. The Christian custom of kissing under the mistletoe is later synthesis of the sexual license of Saturnalia with the Druidic sacrificial cult. The origin of the Christmas presents. In pre-Christian Rome, the emperors compelled their most despised citizens to bring offerings and gifts during the Saturnalia, and calends in December and calends in January. Later, this ritual expanded to including gift-giving among the general populace. The Catholic Church gave this custom a Christian flavour by rerouting it in the supposed gift-giving of Saint Nicholas. The origin of Santa Claus, which is quite, the biggest one in this list, really. Which you could probably do a talk on its own just on Santa Claus. It is kind of interesting. Nicholas was born in Peraro, Turkey in 270 CE and later became Bishop of Myra. He died in 345 CE on December the 6th. He was only named a saint in the 19th century. Nicholas was among the most senior bishops who convened the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE and created the New Testament. The text they produced portrayed Jews as the children of the devil, who sentenced Jesus to death. In 1087, a group of sailors were idolized. Nicholas moved his bones from Turkey to a sanctuary in Bari, Italy. There, Nicholas supplanted a female boon-giving deity called the grandmother of Pascha, Epiphania, who used to fill the children's stockings with their gifts. The grandmother was ousted from her shrine at Bari, which became the centre of the Nicholas cult. Members of this group gave each other gifts during a pageant they conducted annually on the anniversary of Nicholas's death, on December the 6th. The Nicholas cult spread north until it was adopted by German and Celtic pagans. These groups worshipped a pantheon led by Woden, their chief god, and the father of Thor, Balder and Tyr. I'm not sure how to pronounce any of these words, but you'll have enjoyment listening to me try, I'm sure. Woden had a long white beard and rode a horse through the heavens one evening each autumn. When Nicholas merged with Woden, he shed his Mediterranean appearance, grew a beard, mounted a flying horse, rescheduled his flight for December, and donned heavy winter clothing. In a bid for pagan adherents in Northern Europe, the Catholic Church adopted the Nicholas cult and taught that he did distribute gifts on December the 25th instead of December the 6th. In 1809, the novelist Washington Irving, most famous for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and R.I.P. Van Winkle, wrote a satire of Dutch culture entitled Knickerbocker History. The satire refers several times to the white-bearded flying horse riding St. Nicholas, using his Dutch name Santa Claus. Dr. Clement Moore, professor at Union Seminary, read Knickerbocker History, and in 1822 he published a poem based on the character Santa Claus. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in the hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Moore innovated by portraying a Santa with 8 reindeer who descended through chimneys. The Bavarian illustrator Thomas Nast almost completed the modern picture of Santa Claus from 1862 through 1886, based on Moore's poem. Nast drew more than 2,200 cartoon images of Santa for Harper's Weekly. Before Nast, St. Nicholas had been pictured as everything from a stern-looking bishop to a gnome-like figure in a frock. Nast also gave Santa a home at the North Pole, his workshop filled with elves, and his list of the good and bad children of the world. All Santa was missing was his red outfit. In 1931, the Coca-Cola Corporation contracted the Swedish commercial artist Haddon Sundblom to create a Coke drinking Santa. Sundblom modelled his Santa on his friend Lou Prentice. Chosen for his cheerful, chubby face, the corporation insisted that Santa's fur-trimmed suit be bright, Coca-Cola red, and Santa was born, a blend of Christian crusader, pagan god, and commercial idol. This is the last little bit now. The Christmas challenge. Christmas has always been a holiday celebrated carelessly. For millennia, pagans, Christians, and even Jews have been swept away in the season's festivities. And very few people even pause to consider the celebration's intrinsic meaning, history, or its origins. Christmas celebrates the birth of the Christian God who came to rescue mankind from the curse of the Torah. It is a 24-hour declaration that Judaism is no longer valid. Christmas is a lie. There is no Christian church with a tradition that Jesus was really born on the December 25th. December 25th is a day on which Jews have been shamed, tortured, and murdered. Many of the most popular Christmas customs, including the Christmas tree, mistletoe, Christmas presents, and Santa Claus, are modern incarnations of the most depraved pagan rituals ever practiced on earth. Many who are excitedly preparing for their Christmas celebrations would prefer not knowing about the holiday's real significance. If they do know the history, they often object that their celebration has nothing to do with the holiday's monstrous history and its meaning. We are just having fun. Imagine that between 1933 and 45, the Nazi regime celebrated Adolf Hitler's birthday, April the 20th, as a holiday. Imagine that they named the day Hitler Day, and observe that the day with feasting, drunkenness, gift-giving, and various pagan practices. Imagine that on that day, Jews were historically subject to perverse tortures and abuse, and that this continued for centuries. Now, imagine that your great-great-great-grandchildren were about to celebrate Hitler Day. April the 20th arrived. They had long forgotten about the Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. They had never heard of gas chambers or death marches. They'd purchased champagne and caviar, were about to begin the party when someone reminded them of the day's real history and their ancestors' agony. Imagine that they initially objected, open quote, "We aren't celebrating the Holocaust, we're just having a little Hitler Day party," end quote. If you could travel forward in time and meet them, if you could say a few words to them, what would you advise them to do on Hitler Day? On December the 25th, 1941, Julius Streicher, one of the most vicious of Hitler's assistants, celebrated Christmas by penning the following editorial in his rabidly anti-Semitic newspaper, Der Stürmer. If one really wants to put an end to the continued prospering of the curse from heaven, that is the Jewish blood, there is one way to do it, to eradicate this people, this Satan's son, of Satan's son, root and branch. It was an appropriate thought for the day. This Christmas, how will we celebrate? That's my enemy article. Are we still on?
Yeah, sorry. The moot one. Yeah, some interesting stuff there. Like a lot of this, like the Christmas festivities that people enjoy so much and do over this period. Originally, and basically is a paganistic celebration, first and foremost for the winter solstice and the birth of the new, the first day of winter, and the rising of another year, a new sun. So anyway, a lot of it is a new world, isn't it? Every 21st of December, first day of winter, whatever they want to call it. But anyway, it's all to do with the solstice, and if you know all about that, and that's been celebrated for thousands of years, and long before Christianity came about. So there's a lot of, and the fact that you mentioned quite a few things there. I'll start with the last one. One of the last ones you've done was the Puritans, and the Pilgrim Fathers, or the forefathers of America, and banning of Christmas, because there is no religious instruction or anything in the Bible say that they have to celebrate the birth of Christ or any date on which he was born either, as we know. But anyway, I don't know if Fred wants, if Jeff wants to mention a couple of things, or do you want to comment a couple of things, Jeff, before I bring up a couple of my articles?
You're talking about the winter solstice there, Stav. That's the shortest day of the year, isn't it? Which is supposed to be the 21st of December, I think.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
yes. Well, it is now, but originally it's always been the 25th, or it's a week-long thing.
Oh, right.
But then, like in there's a lot tied up with this Saturnalia of the Romans pagans celebrations of 2 weeks over the same period. So
didn't know, Stav. The way I look at it is this. I mean, what do we really know? We've got one person's, hearsay evidence. We got somebody else's hearsay evidence, and somebody else's hearsay evidence. It's all hearsay, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. Well,
none of us were here 2016 years ago to remember.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to sort of give you some evidence, if you like, in a minute, to say the reason why the Christian Church decided to bring up a religious holiday and celebration of the birth of Christ when it wasn't there, and the reasons why they brought it in.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with Christianity. It's got to do with the Pope of Rome and the suppression of the pagan religion, because it was a big threat, basically.
I mean, if we look at it, I mean, you're looking at it all from a historical point of view here, but if you look at it now, what have we got? A load of commercialism, isn't it? That's what we've got now is people going out and mad rush to shops, to the shops to buy a load of gump they can't afford, run themselves into debt, and then spend the next 12 months paying it all off. I mean, I don't know. I'm call me cynical. If I was to celebrate any part of Christmas, it would be Ebenezer Scrooge, because I think he had the right idea.
Not Grinch, then?
Bah humbug, that's what I say, mate. Bah humbug.
Oh, I mean, listen, look.
The Grinch is good. I like the Grinch. He adds a bit of festive colour, doesn't he?
Oh, I mean, listen, what I'll do is I'll give my little, it's not much, it's a few sort of like...
Yeah, please do it. So, I mean, my articles were just, an historical academic time.
Well,
a quick run through for those people who didn't really know that much about, little bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, well, mine's pretty much the same. Probably not as extensive, to be honest. But let's get to the meat of things. Yeah, really, as regards to everybody knows about the Christmas tree. Right, what I'll do is I'll share a screen. I want to do it. Share. It's very slow.
Yeah, I got a bit of a strange question. I wonder if Christmas was invented to prop up the economy. To get people buying stuff.
Yeah, you could say that. Right, I don't know if you can see this page here. Is that coming through all right?
Yeah, I can see that, mate.
Yeah, got that.
Right, this is a little site that is about Asatru, which is basically the pagan religion that was followed before Christianity came through, and still people follow it today. So it's not dead. They didn't kill paganism. It's still well and alive all over the world. And it's mostly to do with the Norsemen. It's mostly to do with the...
pronouncing those words, mate, I tell you.
Yeah, well, it's to do with the Germanic tribes, and that's what the Europeans were before the encroachment of the Roman Empire. That's, you can include the Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, Celts, and also Vikings, and all of this and all the rest of them were basically very similar people, not exactly the same with their culture, but all came from what they call the Germanic tribes of Europe. Okay, that's what that's what the ancestors were, and they had their own pagan religion, which was a religion basically, and religion, just without.
I wish you well with some of them words on there before you start.
I would try. I tried, but my Viking Norseman, Old English, basically. That's actually Old English, the Norseman tongue. There's a lot of Viking language still contained within the Old English side of things, as well as obviously Saxon, a lot of Saxon. But anyway, let me just go straight to the crux to this Christmas tree, because everybody knows the Christmas tree at Christmas. And basically, what the Saxon or Germanic people had, which was the main branch and root, if you like, of their their religion, their paganism. And here's a picture of it, right? And it's got two names. Now, the Norse Viking name for it was Yggdrasil, but in Yggdrasil, but in the Germanic, sort of like Saxon tongue, it was known as the Irminsul. But it's the same thing, okay? And I'll just read you this little bit here. The Yggdrasil is the world tree, a gigantic tree, a central pillar that binds and connects and binds the 9 worlds of the universe together. Also known as the name Yggdrasil, translate as Yig, terrible, plus Drasil, steed. Yggdra is another name of Odin, giving a meaning of Odin's steed. Yggdrasil was known as the Irminsul to the continental Germanic tribes, and historically was an oak or wooden pillar venerated by the Saxons, which was said to connect heaven and earth, as above, so below, PJ. Yeah? The name Irminsul is translated as mighty pillar and is derived from Ermin, the ancient continental Saxon name for Odin, Old Norse Jominura. Thus, it represents a cosmic balance, order, personal power, spiritual creativity, growth, and hidden knowledge. The ancient symbol of the cosmic tree, Irminsul, stroke Yggdrasil, still continues to be widely honoured up to the modern times at Yuletide in the disguised and Christianized form of the Christmas tree. Now, the Christmas tree predates many times, hundreds, if not millennia, before Christianity came along. And it was the ancient, could we say, spiritual tree of all the Germanic tribes, from Vikings down to the Saxons, the Jutes, the Danes, the Angles, and all the rest. A lot of them who came to England, well, came to the UK, came to Britain, whatever, or Albion after the Romans left it. Roman called it Albion, whatever. All these different bloody names for it. So this is the ancient tree. Now, the reason why, one of the main reasons why, and what I can say here is, one of the main reasons why the Christmas tree is very important, more than anything else, really, especially when it comes to paganism, it was their place of worship. It was their church. This tree was put in an area where they, it was their church. It was paganism's, Saxons and the Germanic people's church, if you like. And of course, the popes of Rome knew this. And of course, it was a danger to their Catholic Christianity, right? While the fall of the Roman Empire, and all of a sudden these Germanic tribes are breaking out because, the empire had collapsed and the troops went back to Rome, and then Rome started to go downhill itself, and they was being threatened by all these Celts and Saxons, heathens, as they called them, whatever. And heathens is just because these people lived on the heath. Heathens means heath people who lived on the heath. That's where the word heathen comes from. So there's lots of things here that are been, put out there with the meanings that suit other, should we say, religions, etc. But anyway, the thing is, down here, if I go down here, then this guy doesn't really put it as well as I would put it. But if I can find it, I should have marked it, shouldn't I? But never mind. What this guy is called the Venerable Bede, and he's the only guy. They rely on this man called Venerable Bede, and he wrote what pretty much is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and all of the Dark Age, any type of information or anything that was put down literally only comes from his writing. But he was a Christian priest, so you have to take what he puts in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle kind of with a pinch of salt, because it's all going to lean towards the Pope of Rome and the Church of Rome. So, but anyway, he's not in this pit here. But anyway, if I just pop in here. The festival is some association with fertility. This is about Christmas, and as Bede implies, with Catholic more reticence possibly involved ceremonial copulation. See, they want to, you know, corrupt paganism as, oh, you know, they wanted to run around the streets bollock naked, excuse my language, and have sex in the street and all this paganism and ritual blood and all this business. You know, we had to civilize that with Christianity. But we can see a link between the Yule and Christmas. The pagans were celebrating birth just as the Jesus birth in May. A mortal woman is celebrated by the Christians and so. Common aspect of Yule and Christmas is important to observe. A mandate of the early Roman Church converting the pagans of Europe was to pursue a policy of continuity to ease the change from one religion amongst others to recent converts, such as deciding on the 25th of December as the date of Christ's birth was a tactical ploy by the Roman Church. So basically nothing to do with religion. They used it. And the reason why they used it is because the pagans celebrated the solstice, Yule, which is how the you know, how the Norsemen and that celebrated it, the Yule, burning of the logs, 12 days and all this business. That's, you know, the Yule log at that period. That's all part of the celebrations. But it says here, the need for evolution rather than revolution in the conversion of pagans was specifically mentioned by Pope Gregory the Great. Pope Gregory the Great isn't the Gregory you mentioned, PJ. That's later on. This is the first Gregory. And in his instructions to the missionaries he sent to convert the Anglo-Saxons in 597 AD, speaking of the recycling of pagan religious sites, he explained, "We hope that the people, seeing that their temples are not destroyed, may abandon their error and flocking more readily to their accustomed resorts, may come to know and adore the true God as well as in the implicit association of Yule and Christmas. We can see this process of adoption in the many ancient churches built on the sites of pagan shrines and incorporating a yew tree, a sacred object to the pagans." Now that probably meant jack shit to you, but what I'm saying here is, or trying to explain that, is that they destroyed the ancient shrines that the pagan people throughout Europe with this Irminsul tree. They burnt them down, took them away and stopped people from meeting there. Right, but they said, oh, well, let's put a church on that site, a Catholic church, but to be in good manners, we'll put a tree there for their Irminsul, a yew tree. And that's why you see a yew tree in churchyards, in very old churches in this country. And that's to do with the whole conversion, right, forced conversion of Christianity by the Church of Rome, right, and that's why the yew tree is in a churchyard, because it's to do with the ancient paganism shrine and symbol of the Irminsul tree of paganism hundreds of years before Christianity came along. And here's the story on how they achieved that. A guy called Charlemagne, King Charlemagne, right? He was a guy who ruled throughout France and most of Europe up to the Anglo-Saxon territory, right, of the French and that. But he became a holy emperor. Pope Gregory the Great made him a holy emperor because he wanted his big army in France to get rid of all the pagans and heathens in the northern parts, the Danes, the Saxons, whatever, and destroy them. Anyway, I'll read you this. In spring of 772, Charlemagne held the yearly gathering of the great in the towns of Worms on the River Rhine, from where he gathered an army and travelled north to the Saxon fortress of Eresburg. After taking the fortress, he pushed deeper into Saxon territory. He must have been good intelligence or local guides, for he came to the Irminsul, destroying that sanctuary and carrying off the gold and silver which he found there. The annals are always so terse, have little else to say about a skirmish that kicked off a war that would last more than 30 years. Right? What was it that Charlemagne had done? It's difficult to say exactly. Irminsul is a German word that roughly translates as large pillar. Other uses of the word over the centuries indicate a pillar or column made of stone or wood, and itself a trifle, but this Irminsul had great spiritual meaning, right, to the pagans. to the Germanic tribes of Europe. In the mid-8th century, the monk Rudolf of Fulda wrote on transition a Saint Alexander of Rome. In that work, Rudolf mentions the Irminsul and the Saxons. They also worshipped in the open air a vertical upright trunk of no small size, called in the mother tongue Irminsul, in Latin's Columna Universalis, in the sense that it carries the all. I take the Irminsul to be a great tree trunk, probably worshipped for generations, that they believed to be the real or metaphorical pillar that held up the universe. There are obvious parallels to Yggdrasil, like I just said on that site, the Norse tree of life. Tree of life, PJ. Tree of life, yeah? Flower of life, tree of life. Evidently, offerings were made to the trunk, although I'm not clear how that would hold up the universe. Beyond that won't have much except for the reaction of the Saxons, which we'll get into in a moment. The above question one of Saxon Chronicles avoided is, why did Charlemagne choose to make this incursion into Saxony? Blah, blah, blah. Apparently triggering the event for Charlemagne's burning of a church by an English monk. This is all rubbish. He actually got his orders from Pope Gregory to do this, and he had to destroy paganism lock, stock and barrel at that time. This is before the Christians or Augustine came to Britain, after Anglo-Saxons from Saxony came across and landed on the shores in England and that part of Britain. This is before that. So they wipe out all of the European Germanic tribes and kill their religion stone dead and force Christianity. And then they come across with St. Augustine in 590 something, 600 AD, with the Pope and all the rest of it, with all his entourage, and then christened the... Anyway, it's a whole complete period of where the Church of Rome establishes the new Roman Empire, or shall we say, saved the Roman Empire, and it's pretty much still going today if you look behind the scenes at certain things. So the Roman Empire never really left; it transformed into the Church of Rome, you know, as we know, you know. So this period, what I'm saying, why I've done quite a bit of reading about, I could bring up loads of other stuff, but it'd probably be a bit too deep for a lot of people. This period was about destruction, right? And when you look at Christmas, I look at Christmas as, it's not so much a celebration or whatever, and of the solstice and that. It's still more deep rooted than that. It was also the time, it was also, you know, the whole, there's a lot of things that happen that people celebrate, the Yule log, the chocolate, you know, they get the Yule log and all this business, and the Christmas tree, the mistletoe, and all this other stuff. Even the presents, paganism has a hand in that as well. There's another line to that, PJ, through the paganism. So most of it, but it's the destruction of the paganism religion, and the whole total takeover by the Church of Rome that I've been looking at in Christmas, and the connections, how they mixed in the Christianity and overtook Christmas by saying, let's make it the celebration of the birth of Christ. And it's because there's nothing there. There's nothing in the Bible for a date. There's nothing in the Bible which the Puritans picked up, said that they had to celebrate. And that's why they dropped it. That's why they banned it, because Puritans stuck to the Bible. Didn't they? That's why.
Oh, yeah, they were quite very literal when it comes to Bible, yeah.
Anyway, without sort of, I don't know if you've got much from that, but I don't really want to go on too much more about it. But the fact is, PJ, it's much more complicated. Christmas is much more complicated than what people think, and it's
well, it is, but to summarise, we could sort of work out it's got nothing to do with Christianity. It's nothing really to do with any religion as such. But the spiritual side of it still remains. And it kind of does connect all of the things that have been combined to what we view Christmas as today.
Well, yeah, well, there you go. Even the word Christmas is Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon word Christmas. I mean, there it is. Even Christmas, the word is Anglo-Saxon. According to what some people say. And by the way, it was Pope Julius who changed the date, who brought this fictitious 25th of December in for the the birth of Christ. And precise date of Christ's birth was decided as the 25th of December by Pope Julius I in the 4th century, long before Anglo-Saxon invasion of England. The original Germanic invaders, Anglo-Saxon, were not Christians, but were still engaged in celebrations on the 25th of December, according to Bede, writing in the 8th century. So the Anglo-Saxons, the Saxon who comes from Angles, the place called where the Angles are, right? And Saxons and Jutes, all of these guys who came to Britain after the fall of the Empire, Roman Empire, around about 450 AD onwards, well, when they came over, they were still celebrating on the 25th of December their paganistic religion. Before Pope Julius decided that we'd have a Christmas day and say that the baby Jesus was born on the 25th of December, because they had to take over the pagans' Yule festival of, the solstice and everything linked to that. They had to not only convert the people, they had to destroy the religion, and they had to drive it underground, right? And if they couldn't do that, they would even invade it and take it over. There you go. That's my whole point of it all, PJ.
Yeah, good stuff. That's Davos added on to what I, put out just before.
And I would suggest, if people really want to know more about, especially if you're born in this part of the world, is to go and learn and get back to your real culture before all of this happened.
So,
yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't like it, but I'm afraid if you were born here, go and check your name and everything. If you were born in this country and your parents, whatever, I'm afraid you're Germanic. You have to get over it.
It doesn't explain the important parts of Christmas, though, does it, at all? Like Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts come into it. That's what I want to know.
Mince pies.
Mince pie. Do you know it's actually illegal to eat a mince pie on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
Serious.
Now you could probably connect up with your knowledge, Jeff, on a certain National Socialism. National Socialism?
What's that to do with it, there?
Yeah. You connect that up to the Germanic people and all the rest of it.
Right. Oh, I mean,
you see what,
there could well be some truth in it. I still think the most important part is Brussels sprouts. And I don't think Nigel Farage will be having any of them this Christmas.
The only thing we've not discussed, which some listeners might be thinking, is the angel that sits on top of the tree.
Oh, yeah.
Any more comments from yourself, Jeff?
Yeah, I think I guess I don't take any of it any seriously, to be honest, mate. At Christmas, the way I look at it, the spirit of Christmas is about getting drunk, having some food, overindulgence, and just having a laugh with your mates and family and stuff, if that's what if that's what you like to do. And it's winter's a miserable time, let's face it.
Yeah.
It's the time of year when everything dies. There's only food left in the blooming larder that you've stored away through your harvest and all that in the summer. And it's a time when, families get together and do what they do and all this sort of nonsense. I don't know. I'm just cynical about it all. I've had so many blooming Christmases. I think, I'll be glad if I never see another, to be honest. But that's me.
Yeah, I'm kind of same way of thinking, along the same lines. But what we have seen from, stuff we've gone through tonight is that back when, not with paganism times, people used to do that. You know, it used to be a family thing, and since then we've had all this consumerism, you know, coming to play with it all, and that has an effect on it.
It all
By,
stems
by asking the question, why? Especially this commercial Christmas where everybody feels obligated to go out and buy lots of presents, you know, and
I think, to be honest, it all stems from religious stuff, doesn't it? And we all know that the religious stuff, in my mind, is all it was the first system of control, wasn't it? It is what was there before governments come about. I mean, look what we got now. We've got a prime minister. A minister is a religious figure. So even the government's religious, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've got religious undertones. They've got their own satanic agendas and things, and it's all religious. And
yeah, I want to ask you to share that image at Pope, that most recent one.
Oh, blimey, that's disgusting.
I think that'll ruin Christmas forever, that one. Well, if people actually got an eyesight on that. But going back to it, I know in America the strongest foothold is actually Halloween. They seem to be more interested in Halloween than they are in Christmas.
Oh, right. What, the powers that be?
No, in Americans.
Oh, right. Yeah, they brought it over here, didn't they? They had all the trick or treat stuff, and then all of a sudden we had it over here in England.
Mm.
So whatever they do in America, we copy it here, don't we? We can't have our own culture. It's just everything's Americanized, isn't it?
Are different in Britain and USA. We became especially this way for Britain. In Germany and other European countries. And does the stress caused by Christmas due to its commercialism and feeling you must be with your family make it one of the most miserable times of the year? And another one, last thing I'm going to say is remember to support the banks and corporations this Christmas and the continued efforts to enslave mankind by spending money you haven't got on things you don't need.
Well said, well said. That's exactly what it's all about, and it is all about propping up the economy. And look at the poor old Queen. Spare a thought for the poor old Queen, heating 600 rooms in her palace this year. I think we should all have a whip round for her.
Yeah, let's add a bit of positivity to this. By playing that video we've got queued up, I think it's still queued up before we go, because there's no better person to explain this than the Mr. Bill Donahue himself, and I'm not even going to waste my time talking when we can just listen to the one who does it best. Have we got that video still queued up?
Oh, do you want me to play that vid? Yeah.
Yeah, just play a few minutes of that.
All right, hang on a sec.
I think it ties it all up, and it brings it back round to a spiritual thing, which is what, in my opinion, I think it is really all about. And if we are going to try and get back to that, original way of looking at things, and
this is the way
to, that's the one. Full screen it and play it.
Full screen it. Where do you want me to?
Just play it from where you've got it. Yeah, that's all good.
What, the whole 52 minutes?
No, just a few minutes, right? 4 or 5 minutes, and then.
Right, let me know when you want me to cut it off. Here we go.
But this is Christmas. And I really love this time of year. I think it's, to me, it's a beautiful time of year. And you seem to be drawn to people, and there's a feeling that you want to be around people and just hang out, have a few things to drink, have something to eat, just talk. And it's just the insane buying that is so contradictory to the feeling that you get that feeling this time of year of wanting to socialize with people and be with people. But what ruins it is this need to buy. And how wonderful if we could experience the feeling that we feel now towards one another without this obligatory feeling that we have to buy something. The need just to be with one another, just to be able to sing and just have fun with one another without spoiled by society's imposed need to buy things. The other evening we were in a restaurant here, and it was interesting. There was a waitress there who had obviously had some difficult times, and a hardworking person. And she was putting in a double shift to try to make enough money to buy for her kids and all this stuff. And she was working, yes, hard worker in this place. And she had lost $100 of the company's money that night, $100 bill. And she was devastated. Well, yeah, her tip money, And, well, somebody stole it. Obviously, she put it down, and you're back with a bunch of other people. And, yeah. Well, that was that. Anyhow, she would have worked that entire evening, and as it turned out, she would have made $102.
Yeah,
$2. So we left a tip that kind of made up for a good part of it. And we committed up the next night into the restaurant, and she was actually off, but she had stayed hoping we would come in. And when we got in there, she came running over, and she hugged, and she's crying. I mean, everybody, why is this waitress crying in the middle of a restaurant? But it was a beautiful thing. It was probably one of the nicest things I've ever experienced for Christmas. I can never recall. The gift wasn't mandated. It wasn't required. But it touched the heart. And to me, that's the Christ birth was experienced right there. This hardworking woman was kind of saved out of a catastrophe. And here in the middle of the restaurant, we all experienced that. And I really was touched by that. That was the Christ experience. I believe that we really lost. That we can feel with one another during this time of year, during Christmas. There's something in the vibrations that come from above, and whether they be planetary alignments or what they are, it's hard to say. But there is something that changes, and it's much more than obviously Christmas carols and things like that. There is some kind of electricity that abounds this time of year that draws people to one another. It can make many people terribly depressed. They've got the suicide hotlines on 24-hour alert right now because some people just can't deal with it. They really get depressed. Others are filled with love and lots of good feelings. But as the season progresses, as we go away from Christmas or further and further away we go, that feeling disappears. So there is something very special about this time of year that has to do with people being drawn to one another. Something electrical, something magnetic that has to do probably, and I believe this, with the formations of the celestial bodies at this time of year. They seem to generate a particular type of energy that makes us feel the way we do. So all of us here in this room, and many of you, television, have been raised with the story of Mary and Joseph traveling to Bethlehem. No room at the inn. The Virgin giving birth in a stable among the animals. The shepherds watching. The wise men coming, and the star shining down on all of it. You've heard that story, and you know that story. It's been part of your life. Such a beautiful story, complemented by songs that are beautiful, such as Silent Night or It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. The story of the birth of Jesus in a stable is mythology. It's a mythological story. It never happened. And I would always pause after saying something like that because it was had to give people time to think, well, what did you just say? I said that the story of the birth of Jesus in a stable is mythology. It never occurred. There never was a child born to a virgin in a stable with shepherds and wise men and a star. It never occurred. But the wonder of that, after you initially hear a statement like that and start to put up your defenses, the wonder of it all is that as mythology, it speaks not of what happened, but of what happens. Because there truly is a child who is born of a virgin among the animal instincts of all of us. This is really true. We are the shepherds. We watch over the sheep, which are our thoughts. Think of that again. We are the shepherds. The sheep are our thoughts. How many of you have been told when you were a child, well, if you can't fall asleep, what did you do? You counted sheep and you watched them. We watch the sheep. The sheep are our thoughts. The wise men that come to us from the east is the new thoughts, the new information, the enlightenment that comes from the right hemisphere of the brain, from the spiritual side, from the emotional side, from the God side. So if you just think of the story, okay, the shepherd is us watching over our thoughts. The wise men from the east is wisdom from the right side. And so by understanding that the story of Jesus in Bethlehem is a mythology, we've now been able to go into the mythological meanings and come up with a reality, a truth. That's a true story. Christmas is a true story. So we are the shepherds watching. The wise men are wisdom that comes from the right side when we are watching. The stable is the human body. Part of the specific part of the stable being part of the mind. And the animal part is where the child is born. So right there, the animals being the physical nature. Okay. So amidst that, we've kind of covered there in the stable, there in that special place inside of the body, amongst the animals, which are those parts of us which are, our instincts, our physical being. The wise men from the east, wisdom from the right side, the shepherds, us watching. And the virgin is pure consciousness, which is unstained by human thought. So we have pure conscious. Okay. The virgin. And the star. The star is the higher light which follows all of us from above and enters our stable through the lotus or the pineal gland of the brain. The star is the higher light. Of course, there's no room at the inn because that's the physical part of the brain. And, that's the part that is constantly active. That's the part that is consistently talking to us. And there's no room here to have a child of light because we're too busy. We're too busy to go to meditation. We're too busy to really look and all of these things. So you cannot possibly do it. The child cannot be born in that part of the brain. It has to go to the stable, which is the quiet part, still within our animal instincts. And that's where the child is. That's what this story is about. It's mythology. But being mythology, it can be duplicated. You can allow Christmas to take place inside of you in a very real way. Okay? The wonder of the story is that it's
not enough, right?
It's just putting an overall perception viewpoint on Christmas out there, leaving it for viewers to, chew on it. And I'll leave all links, YouTube link for that in description below if anyone wants to pursue it further.
How do I switch this off? Hang on. Ah, there we go. Have I got rid of it?
But if they don't understand, Bill Donahue comes from the whole
the mystic side.
Yeah, if it doesn't come from the mythology, allegorical story and that he looks on the Bible it's symbolic. and that'd be a little bit confusing. What he was
I've
saying.
got a much simpler explanation for it all, to be honest, actually, Stav. I mean, all this stuff about the virgin birth and all that. Well, I think it's probably more likely, right, that Mary, which was the mother of Jesus, she was probably having a quickie behind Joseph's back with the milkman. I don't know. Probably something was going on with the milkman or the coalman. When he came round to deliver his load or whatever, he delivered it in another way.
Let me share my final image.
Call me cynical. Call me cynical if you like, but I think there's always a more simple, because adultery was frowned upon in those days. You see, couldn't be anybody be talked about in an adulterous manner or anything like that. So it's just to cover up the fact she was having a quickie with a milkman on a Wednesday afternoon or whatever when Joseph was busy at work. I don't know.
Oh yeah, but you're looking at it.
What it means to me. This is Christmas to me. I
A
mean,
literal side there, Jeff.
Stav?
I said, yeah, you're coming from the. You're still coming from the literal side of things from the Bible,
I mean,
but in a warped way. But I get what you're saying.
No, I mean, who knows? Anything could have happened, couldn't it?
in a satirical sense.
No, not even in a satirical sense. I mean, it might be real, what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I mean, when he, did all these fancy things like walking on water, maybe there was a logical explanation for it. I mean, he lived in the desert, didn't he? Out in those sort of arid regions where the sun was blazing down, and he is probably walking along from somebody's perspective on a mirage. We've all seen a mirage on a hot day, haven't we? Going along the road where the sun's beating down on the road and it looks like water's there, and there's no water. So I think there's just simple explanations that at the time people didn't understand, and they confused it with miracles and stuff like this. I think there's probably more simple explanations for a lot of the things that went on,
Oh, you could have if you've got an open mind, it could be anything, couldn't it? Really, it could be whatever you want it.
Yeah. Let me just share this one image, because to me, this is what symbolises Christmas today, in this modern time. Just let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's a big shout out to all the doctors, nurses and hospital staff giving up their Christmas day to look after people. And it's as straightforward as that, really. I think this one image says it all. As a picture says 1,000 words. And to me, that's what Christmas is.
Yeah, I think that sums it up nicely, to be honest. It's the spirit of kindness and what put into Christmas, isn't it? It's not necessarily the buying of presents and all this commercial rubbish. It's simple acts of goodness and kindness, isn't it? That's what I reckon.
Yeah, from things we've already got to give, instead of trying to, break his backs to cheer people up, and then all you've got in return is bad health. And that's not good for any family, is it, really?
I couldn't agree more with you, Jay.
Well, Christmas is whatever you want it to be. Some people celebrate it. Yeah, some people have a Christmas day to meet up with families. Some people have a Christmas day and on their own, and they've got families, but they don't want to be with them because it's too much of a pain in the backside. Some people have Christmas for religious reasons, and other people have Christmases because they've been forced to have the day off because they'd rather be doing their job. But whatever it is, I hope you had a nice day, anyone, and a good day. And it's Boxing Day tomorrow. I wonder what's happening. A boxing match or something? Was it a fist fight or something? maybe it was something to do with discarding the boxes of the presents and boxing up the rubbish and putting it in the bin.
Maybe it's going out in the January sales and getting cheap presents ready for next Christmas and boxing them all up.
Yeah, probably take them back to the shop because you bought them and you really didn't need them anyway, or you didn't like the present that somebody bought you anyway. I don't know, but there we are. It is what it is. You make of it, I suppose, and that's it, really.
Yeah, well, nothing more from me. I've finish for what I have to say on the Christmas. Yep.
I'd still like to know where Brussels sprouts come into it all. That's the best part of Christmas to me. I love them. Can't get Brussels sprouts. That's the spirit of Christmas is what comes out of your butt after you've been eating Brussels sprouts and you have a good old fart.
You're not
Well,
going to
if
roast.
anybody knows, drop a comment for Jeff.
Yeah, we'll do. Okay, I'll just put that for you. You're not going to roast your chestnuts by the fire then, Jeff?
Roasting chestnuts? Oh, blimey. I haven't got an open fire, actually, to do it on. If I wanted.
Roast your chestnuts via the smart move. I don't know.
Got gas central heating, if that's any good.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to hear from you, and we'll catch you next week, hopefully.
Will do.
Nice one,
Cheers.
Stav.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, PJ. Cheers, Stav. Sorry to be cynical at Christmas time. I shouldn't be like it, really, but to me, yeah, it's just another day to me. That's the way I look.
There's always next year.
Yeah, right.
See you later, guys.
Cheers, folks.